believe it looking at me, but I actually used to play rugby when I was at school.
I believe that.
No, I wouldn't. I generally wouldn't. I used to be a hooker when I was...
I was just about to say hooker. You should have let me guess. I was going to guess hooker.
Really? How come? Go on. Why? Where did you go with that?
Just shape. No, I don't think you're quite broad, thick enough to be a prop, but then you're too thick to be anywhere else. So... I'm joking, by the way.
I want to go back to the start of your career, because obviously I went to a rugby school. A school that was, okay, how am I going to phrase this? A school that was well known for its rugby. We had multiple times Daily Mail Cup winners. I know. Why was I at this school? So we had there was a talent who went on to them, because I went to school in Gloucester. So we a lot of the lads who played at sixth form level, they were getting scouted, they were getting picked up, and then went on to go into the youth system academy setup with Gloucester. Yeah. We had lads like Charlie Sharples play for us and stuff like that. So it's a good talent, good rugby talent.
What's it called?
St. Peter's in Tuffley.
Yeah. Because I played with Charlie Sharples.
Did you?
Through, age group stuff. So
good, very good talent.
Yeah, he kind of dropped off a bit towards the end, didn't he? Yeah. Just didn't quite carry on, but mate, he was class. He was class at our age.
I think we had Ryan Lamb as well. Pretty sure went to our school. Pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
Any stories about him?
Not ones I can say on there. I do have lots of stories.
We'll save that for another time. Maybe just after this, we'll talk about Ryan Lamb. But I felt like the kids I went to school with, they were kind of they were pushed into that road. I think because our school, that's the big thing that we were renowned for. Yeah. When did you find out earlier on that you were going to be a rugby player?
So I started playing when I was 7, right? And I was just massive, and I just loved sports. I was big, I was athletic, I was quick, and I just loved running around. I played football up until I was 12. Played it for a bit at Nottingham Forest, just playing up youth games and stuff like that. But it was really, I think, just my size and physicality. I obviously kept getting red carded in games. This guy can't play football. This is a joke. Just storming into people and headering them and kicking them at the same time. And then they were like, "Yeah, mate, you got to play rugby." Yeah, you got. And then I got into the Tigers setup at a really young age, 13. I swear I was 6 foot at 13, and then that was it for mate, you're playing rugby, get in there and run over some people.
It's Leicester Tigers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Leicester?
Yeah. Well, Melton Mowbray, which is a lovely place. Biggest cattle market in the UK.
Yeah, there we
are. Home of the pork pies.
Says a lot.
And and that's probably it. I think they still have a Select there, which is a clothing shop.
That's going back a few years. Look at that.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous place. There's some lovely areas around it, but there was nothing there for me. All my school friends from there, my early school friends, they all stayed there. They were all families by 23. Yeah. Same job for 20 years and never moved out. But yeah, I was always ambitious, athletic, strong, and I just love running over people. And once we got into the contact, I just loved it. I would actually run at people, and I pretty much did that when I was playing Prem as well. Yeah. I just loved trying to bump people and the physicality of it, and it cost me in the end. Yeah. Unfortunately. And we're seeing more and more of it now, people coming out with, I look at, I've in the past 12 months, I've had 2 people die, right? 2 of my friends die, and a third one's got MS. He's already in a wheelchair, Ed Slater. Mate, rugby is tough. It is just tough. Yeah. And it just rips people's bodies apart, and, and mentally as well, it's really tough. Yeah. But I just loved it. Just loved it.
It's a cracking sport. It is. I think you're completely right. I think this is more attention now, isn't it, from medical extraordinaires who are looking into the sport, and they're clearly saying that actually we probably need to have more protection around the kids who are probably playing it at your age. When you were about 14, 15, running through other kids. Yeah. Maybe that probably wasn't a great idea.
Yeah, I was huge, and I remember pile driving. I broke one kid's collarbone when I was 16. Oh, wow. I just ran straight into him, but because I was so much bigger, you know, and I think the Kiwis they do it by weight, not by age. Which, because if you imagine some of those Islander boys coming into playing against like people that are half their size, you know, someone's going to get hurt.
Someone's going to get really hurt.
Yeah, and it's like you said, there's a lot of stuff coming around about head injuries. I think, you know, mine sparked a load of stuff off about the HIAs because I didn't come off. I played 60 minutes with my head, like my brain bleeding into my head. And, you know, there's all these guys coming off with problems, and I know there's loads of issues around kind of 40-plus-year-olds now. And it's a tough sport. I don't think you're ever going to negate that risk, and it's just like a case of what do you do? I mean, you look at American football and all the stuff that came out about CET, like their heads being in those helmets and shaking about. You know, it was our choice at the end of the day, but we were kids and you know, we loved it, like just loved it. That was everything for us. And going up through that Leicester Academy, you know, there was 40 of us, and we were all like, we're all going to play pro rugby.
Yeah.
You know, there was 4 of us that played pro from that group.
Yeah.
You know, one being Manu. You know, it's a tough sport. And would I have done anything differently? Do you know, looking back, I probably would have.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I probably, like, don't get me wrong, like, there is stuff that you're never going to compare to.
Take us through your timeline, because I think that's a good place to take us through your timeline.
Yeah,
Anyone who doesn't know the Will Hurrell story.
Yeah, so I started off at Tigers, grew up through the academy, like, and that was tough, man. That was tough. They had us training with the first team at like 16, 17.
Wow.
I was doing sixth form. I was doing further maths and physics. I was leaving Melton Mowbray at 5 a.m. I was getting driven to my dad's place of work, which was a hospital. I was getting 2 buses to get to training to start at 7 a.m. We were doing probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of training in that morning, beating the hell out of each other, skills, pushing rusty cars around rugby pitches, right, in the freezing cold, in the rain, you know, going through technical stuff, tactical stuff, skills, mental stuff. Doing that, going straight into doing further maths and physics. And I did it properly. Like, some of the boys were just like, I'm going to be a rugby player. I'll do general studies. And that's it. General studies PE, and then they failed it. Right.
Yeah. Other subjects are available.
And then we were going straight back to training at 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. And back there, another 2 hours. Then I was getting 2 buses, and then I was getting back with Dad, getting home at like 8 o'clock, eating, back to bed, up at 5. And I did that for 2 years while I was studying, until I finally got into the first team there. And it didn't go how I wanted the first team at Leicester. Like, I kind of got into it. I was a bit cocky. I was big, you know, I was quick. And Leicester I'll be honest, it's a toxic environment. And most of the clubs I've been in have been quite toxic environments. Toxic masculinity, like fighting and bullying, and really trying to get, they'd call it like resilience training, right? You know, you need to be a first team player. You got to be tough. You got to be strong. You got to work.
Building our resilience.
Yeah, you know, all you academy boys, get on the bags. We're going to beat the hell out of you. And when you make it, you're going to be the big dog, right? And don't get me wrong, that created some fantastic players. And that was when they were winning everything, right? Because they were just relentless. But they missed the nurturing side. And I think rugby still misses that. You know, I've been in a lot of toxic teams where there's cliques, and there's like fighting, and there's like moaning, and you know, rugby is still missing that, the nurturing side. And you're either in the first team or you're out. There's not a lot of like cohesion in the teams I've been in. But like, you know, it made me who I am. And you know, I went through Leicester. I played a few first team games. I thought I'm going to do okay. I got let go by Cockers. You know, he said we don't have space for you. Like, you've just not made it. And there was 12 other back 3 players, wingers and fullbacks, and I was like, you know, that was just gone. And then I went to London Welsh. I spent a year there. That was very up and down, but we won the league. Ended up not staying there. Went up to Rotherham, and that really was a big wake-up call for me, because I've gone from Premiership to top of the Championship, where we got promoted, to Rotherham, who, not taking anything away from them, but like going up north, it's a different place. Like the culture was different. I've come over like a big cocky guy. Like,
and you're still young at this point.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing that people ignore. You were still really young.
21.
Yeah,
21. I went up there, and I got there, and I thought, right, I'm gonna tear up, get back in the Prem. And the first night out, I got in a massive scrap with the captain. He came, he didn't like my chat, and he came in and he whacked me when I was in the toilet. And I got in a huge scrap, and I completely lost my head. I got done drink driving. I left Rotherham after a month, and I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing here? I just didn't know. I was lost. And I went to go and live with my brother and reset. And I went to uni. I did a maths degree. I went and played for Coventry, and and got my love back for it. And because I'd had couple of tough years from Leicester, getting binned off, and then binned off from London Welsh, and and the way that we'd bred, right, was that rugby was everything. This is who you are. This is your life. And like I said, it made some fantastic players. But if you were outside of that, and looking in, thinking, God, I'm not in it, I'm not playing, your head was just gone. And I had to get myself back. I worked really hard. I did a maths degree, played well at Coventry. I was training with a bodybuilder at uni, and I actually put on 25 kilos in 6 months training with him.
Wow.
No steroids either.
You had to get that in.
I get a lot of stigma. 25 kilos. But this guy, no, he just got training. He got my food right. Like, just a different mindset, because his was all around his body, whereas rugby was all about the rugby. And
all of a sudden, people now are in your inner circle. They're looking after you now.
Yeah, mate. 100, like Coventry, I've never been anywhere like it. I loved it there. I loved it. I spent 2 years there, and I was uni in the day, and I would travel over and train in the evening. And every time I went in there after a game, I never wanted to leave. There was one time I walked in there, and the fans, they loved me that much. There was about 10 pints lined up. And they were like, Phil's bought you that, or Jeff's bought you that, like Tom's bought you that, and I'd end up not leaving there till like 11 p.m. at night, because I just stand with them. Like, we had live music, and I really fell back into love with rugby again. And my ambition took me to Donny Nights, where I went up there, and Doncaster, as much as I love that place, there wasn't much going on. There was the rugby club, and that was it. We went to the races once, I think, and I focused my whole energy, and I became obsessed again. And that's one thing that has been positive and negative for me, was I was obsessed with rugby. Like, I loved it, but it was an obsession.
When did Bristol Bears come calling in?
So it was at this Donny. So I played that year at Donny. We got into the final, mate. I was tearing up. Like, people just could not tackle me. And we pumped Leeds in the semis, and we had that huge final against Donny. They beat us up at our place. We came down here, and I just tore up, but just couldn't do enough. And the team was fantastic. And fortunately for me, like, Bristol wanted to take me on after that. It was all televised. It was a big deal, and that was when I moved to Bristol. And I spent 4 years there. Lots of ups and downs. Like that, look, from that first game with Gav Henson to thinking, this is my home, this is my place, to we get relegated again. Pat Lam comes in. We've had a turbulent relationship. Like, he's dropped me, I've lost my mind, I've gone off and, done stuff I shouldn't. Yep. He dropped me, and I had to work my arse off to get back in. And when I say work my arse off, like, I'm talking like I was doing core 3 times a day, stretching 3 times a day. I was doing passing for an hour a day, left hand passing, right hand passing, kicking, grubbers, left foot, like every single day to get back into it. And I got back into it, and I cocked myself up. I got in a really bad relationship, and it kind of all went south. And then I dislocated my shoulder. I worked hard to come back, and got back, banged my head, and brain bleed, and you're done, mate. And that was 10 days before my 30th birthday. I was just sorting out to move back up to Edinburgh. I just signed for about to sign for Edinburgh. 6-figure contract, move up there, new start, have a go at it, and then bang, like, head gone, brain bleed. you're done, mate. You know, they said you bang your head again, the best case scenario, you'll lose all your memory. Like, you won't know who your parents are, you won't know who your friends are, you won't remember anything going forward. Or they said, worst case, you're paralyzed or you just die.
Yeah. So when we're talking about, when we're planning these episodes, we often try to come out with like a theme for them. I think for you, the themes that come out the most, I think, are both adaptability and resilience for yourself, because no one's gone through it more than you, and how you've had that ability to just get back on your feet so many times. Are you comfortable talking about the stroke? Are we happy to go there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about it then. Let's go into it. So, like, tell us like what happened then, and what that was basically what you were going through at the time as well.
So I wasn't quite aware what happened. So when I banged my head, I came off, and so I played another 60 minutes after I banged my head, and I came off and I sat down, and I just went, like, all this water just started falling off me, and I've got up to go and see the doctor, and I just fell over, and the doctor had to carry me up the stairs, and this came to me like afterwards. Like, I remember sitting there, because obviously I used to play at Tigers as well. I forgot it was Tigers away. So we're at Welford Road, family there, everyone. And there were there was about 10 people in there looking at me. And I remember trying to speak, and I thought, I've not said anything here. And they were like that. And it was frozen. And I was like, I'm in trouble here.
Oh no.
And then I got rushed to the hospital, like, and I was throwing up all night. I couldn't walk, I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. There was like, I was in this room full of screaming people, and I was like, I'm gonna die. I was like, I'm dead. I ain't surviving this. And then, like, I came back, and my career was gone. I've gone from 6 figures to 0 overnight. I'm living at my parents', like, no house, like nothing. And, you know, I couldn't speak for a month. I was sleeping 22 hours a day. I was trying to walk the dogs, right? Bearing in mind I was a pro athlete. I was trying to walk the dogs, and I was lasting 15 minutes and having to, like, sit down and go back home. And
to be fair, I've seen those dogs, and they're very small dogs. I mean, they are very small dogs.
The Chihuahuas, yeah, they're crazy. And I realised, like, I'd lost everything. All this plan, what I was obsessed with the most, what my whole life had been, was gone. And I went through, like, a dark period. Like, it was bad. It was bad. I tried to kill myself at one point. And my missus come back in and seen that I'm, like, passed out on the floor. Ambulance come, made me drink all this stuff, and I stopped breathing again, and it was bad. It was really bad, and I could not cope with it at all. I think it was a mixture of losing everything that I'd ever been, and you know, the brain injury, just couldn't cope with it. I just couldn't cope with it. And, you know, I had a bit of therapy, and, you know, I tried to do some other stuff. I started playing golf with my dad, and that kind of got me back into it. You know, I was having speech and language therapy again, and it took a long time. Like, I'm still not 100%, right? Like, I still have panic attacks and stress and anxiety, and I miss rugby, and I think, what am I doing with my life? You know, am I doing the right things? But there's a few things that are just key, and for me, it's got to be, you've got to come to accept that things have changed, right? You've got to accept that things are different, and once you've done that, it's then about rebuilding. It's about, right, how do I get to this next point? Where's my next peak, right? And you know, like we've said, recruitment is crazy ups and downs, just like my career. Crazy ups and downs where you think you're doing really well, and you get hit with something, and so something else comes, and you just having that ability to bounce back. I always called it the bounce back. How do I bounce back harder? How do I bounce back faster? What can I do more? How can I be better? And just having that mindset is crucial, and it's having those right people around you, having the right thought process of goals. I was always goal driven, and you know, recruitment for me is perfect. And I know, like we said, like, what made me choose recruitment? It was, you know, I love the wins, I love the energy, I love the camaraderie, the team. I'm a real people's guy. You know, I love doing the talks. I would always spend time with the fans. I've talked on BT Sports about rugby. Like, I'm a real personable guy, and I love the building relationships and placing people and moving stuff. And for me, it was a real natural progression. And they always say, right, sports people make the best recruiters, and we have these things like resilience, right? I've had to work on resilience all my life. Like, I've had these crazy knockbacks where, I've mentioned a couple.
Yeah. And
I'm just like, I think, how do I bounce back from here? What's my goal? What's my plan? What do I need to happen? And they're tough skills to bring. And I don't think any industry particularly works on those skills enough. Whereas, like, in rugby, I think if they focus a lot more on their, the mental side of the game, they'd see things. And some coaches do, right? You hear about some of the international coaches that have brought in, mind coaches or, mental health professionals to work on this stuff. And I think businesses can learn from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, those skills nowadays, I think they're still called soft skills, right? But they're not. They're not soft skills. No. These are core skills for a vast majority of industries or whatever elite sport you find yourself in, because they are transitional. What do you think helped you with that transition from elite sport into something that's recruitment? Because let's face it, like, between the two of us, it's not rugby. No. It isn't rugby. So what's helped you come to terms with
that? A lot of ups and downs. Okay. And I think for me, and this is really weird actually, like, I've not even thought about this until we've just sat here and spoken this, but like, feeling the pain, like, actually allowing yourself to feel that pain. Like, I've lost my rugby career, I've lost my whole life, and allowing myself to feel that has actually been able to help me move on. Good. Like, things are different now, and you have to accept that. And it's all about, right, a big thing for me was perspective. So when I first did my head, and I'd had enough, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. And I spoke to a guy called Matt Hampson who snapped his neck in a scrum quite a few years ago, and all he can do is move his chin. And I spoke to him, and they've been really good in reaching out to me, and I spoke to him, and I said, how'd you do it? I said, because I've still got all my bodily functions, and I can't cope with this. I don't want to be here. And he just said to me, I'm not coping with this. He said, I hate it. And he said, all I can do is move my head. I can't hug my partner. I can't get up. I'm reliant on everyone. I can't do anything. And I spoke to him, and that just immediately put it into perspective for me. Like, Jesus, I'm doing okay. Yeah.
But in the same breath, though, right? Like, there's a stigma, isn't it? Just because yours isn't physical, obviously I know the stroke was, but I know that just because you can't see anything now doesn't mean it's not as impactful on your life.
Yeah,
as something that's physical, right?
Yeah, it's the mental side, I think, is even worse, because physical stuff, like, I've lost my arm, right? I can't use that. I'll adapt. Yeah. But when it's mental, it messes with the way you're thinking. Yeah. And especially part of my brain, so the bit at the back on the frontal lobe is just dead. It's just dead tissue, right? And when I couldn't speak, they said you have to learn for your neural pathways to find ways around that. And it's exactly the same with mental health. Like, when you're not in that good place, you've got to think, right, how do I get back to that good place? How do I get myself back? What's my plan? And, it's given me some good skills to be able to push on now, but it's tough. It's been real tough.
No, I'm genuinely lucky to know and work with you, pal. Like, and I do genuinely mean that. What you told me before, which I always found was really interesting, and just listening to you now, I think it resonates with me so much, is that you've always been a planner. Yeah. You planned out your entire rugby career to the nth degree. You told me when you were going to retire. Yeah. Yeah. And now, obviously, that plan got scrapped.
Yeah, just gone.
Do you want to talk about that? And let's talk about the plan first of all. So what was Hurricane Hurrell's career going to look like?
So obviously, like, things changed. When I got released from places, I had to adapt. But I always said, like, the last two years of my life were going to be in Japan. Yeah. I was obsessed. So I went to a Junior World Cup in there in, God, I think it was like 2008, sorry. And I just loved it. I loved the culture. I loved the cleanliness of it. Like, love sushi. I loved like the bars. It was just glorious. And I said to myself after that, so I was 18, and I said, the last 2 years of my rugby career was going to be in Japan. And I knew I was going to go over there, and, you know, I played with a guy called Todd Blackadder at Bath, and he'd moved over to Japan, and I thought, God, I'll reach out to him, you know. And I was 30, so I thought, right, I got 4 or 5 years left in you know, UK. I was just about to sign for Edinburgh for 2 years. I thought, oh, there'll be a move after that. Let's see where this goes. Can I get back into England? If not, I'm going to Japan. And then boom, it was just all gone. Gone.
Overnight. And the Japanese game has progressed so much over the years, right? We could have literally an entire different podcast episode just on that. No, and thank you for that. And obviously for the plan now, like what's obviously now you find yourself in recruitment. Like what is the plan for Will? Like what have you got targets or goals that you want to achieve now?
For me, yeah, there is, and I'm still figuring out what long term looks like. You know, and I've had to I've gone back and forth in my mind about what do I do, you know, and these Harvard courses came up online the other day, and I've started doing those again. There's like some coding courses, software dev courses, all on there, and you know, I've thought about owning my own business. I've thought about side hustles, like what can I do, and I'm still trying to figure that out. I am, to be honest, I don't know what the long-term plan is, and for me right now, the focus has just been on, right, what can I do at PRG? How can I build this market? How can I help this team? How can I get us to the best team in the business? And for me, those are my targets right now, and I'll figure out those long-term targets. I don't know what they are. I personally think managing is one of my good skills. I think, you know, funnily enough, you know, again, I went into rugby coaching, and that just disappeared. I thought, this isn't for me. Like, you know, rugby is toxic. But
I've heard stories about that though. Ex-athletes trying their hand at coaching, and it's just not the same. I think a recent podcast with the Overlap guys with Gary Neville, and he said, like, they asked him, would you go back into coaching? Just like, it just wasn't the same. Yeah, being on, like, literally being on that pitch on the green, watching the other lads do it, it just isn't. It doesn't scratch that same itch as actually playing yourself. Yeah, it's. If you love your sport, then no, going into coaching, it becomes like, God, I can't do it. Some people, sport was just a job, right? Yeah, sport was just a job, and they probably make good coaches. But coaching is the same as managing, right? In any business, you look at good recruiters, do fantastic billers always make amazing managers? No, because the skill set is completely different. Me getting you to be good is nothing to do with my skills. My boss has been trying that for years. They're still not succeeding, so don't worry about that. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's about picking the right people, having the right team. There's so many factors come into it. But I do see myself kind of like managing, whether it's managing, running a business, whatever it is. It's, you know, I'm going to have plans, and I'm still figuring that out right now. What do you think skills or lessons from your rugby career do you think have helped you the most in that transition into something completely different? Like so there's a few. We've mentioned adaptability. There's adaptability. There's resilience. You know, managing my mental health. The bounce back. I mean, links to resilience, but bouncing back, like with these knockbacks. I think all those are really big soft skills. Well, we say soft skills. They're skills that, you know, they transition really well into work life, and it is completely different, you know, 9 to 5, but yeah, it's all those skills, and that's why people like hiring professional athletes, right? Yeah, because they know they've got those skills, the determination, the focus, and the mental health skills that they can bring to not just themselves but a team. Because we're used to working in these team sports. If I need you to be good for me to be good in sport, right? And all that comes together in a team environment. And we've got a small team in the Swiss market there at PRG, and
and we've all started collaborating, and it's like, right, oh, this is good for us. Like, how can we work together to make this team better?
Yeah.
And I think it's just things like that we can bring to the table.
I completely agree. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in recruitment is people thinking that it's completely solo as a career, because it isn't. Actually, when you start to open up the doors to collaboration and work as a team, as you put it, then actually you find yourself being far more successful than just putting yourself in the corner and just concentrating on your own desk, building your own market.
And it doesn't even have to be big things, because so if you look at me, Evs, and Ben this last month, Evs' client, I did the deal. My client, I passed to Ben. Ben's done the deal, and Evs' was a split with Lauren in the team as well. And we've all, and I feel like I constantly want to drive that, like our team stuff, because the team does well, we do well by proxy, and by our, the culture is just a bit different, and you can feel it in the air that things are a bit different when everyone's doing well and everyone's positive, and it's more enjoyable as well.
Yeah,
it's not like getting there. God, I've got a bill. I've got it. Like,
it's a lot of pressure to hang over your head as well, right?
It's huge.
You think you're all by yourself.
Huge.
Yeah.
You need to have people to talk to.
It's true.
If I didn't have people to talk to after my stroke, I wouldn't be here.
No.
100%. And it's exactly, you can't isolate work life, right? And work is such a big part of our lives. And funnily enough, another thing that made a big difference was I listened to this audiobook called 4,000 Weeks, right? If we live to 80, we've got 4,000 weeks of life.
Okay.
4,000 weeks. You think about how quickly 1 week goes by, right? And of that week, 5 days you're in work, you're with your mates in work. That's like over half your life.
Yeah.
Is over 2,000 weeks worth of that you're in work. So if you don't enjoy work and you don't feel like a team and you feel pressure and you've got no one to share that with, that's half your life that you're miserable. Yeah. That's crazy, right?
It's crazy numbers. Yeah, I completely agree. So anyone potentially listening to this then, maybe they're currently in a sporting capacity right now. Maybe they're approaching the end of their career. Maybe they were one of the fortunate individuals, so many of them, who didn't get the call up, and they were looking at transition into something completely different, like recruitment. What advice do you think you'd potentially give someone like that?
You've got to pick something that suits you, right? And by nature, most sportsmen are goal-driven, but also what recruitment does is, and I would 100% say to anyone like 18, 21, coming out of uni or secondary school, go and do recruitment, right? Because there's a lot of skills you learn. I came into this thinking, oh, this will be easy, right? I did a maths degree, so I can chat rubbish about software developing, even though we use MATLAB. Thanks, Aston. Could have got us doing Python or something useful, but
is R a language as well? Is that what was on?
Yeah,
I'm impressed. I know that.
Yeah, we don't.
I'm impressed. I know that.
But yeah, I thought, I did a maths degree and I can chat about it and this will be easy and make loads of money, and it's like boom, you've got to have planning, you've got to have adaptability, and I didn't expect to be needing all those skills, right? But I got straight back into it, and I was like, right, okay, we've got to work at this. We're going to work at this. We're going to go at it. And I do love it. I love it. I love my team. I love the people around me. I love the wins. It has its challenges. 100% it has its challenges, and resilience is a big one. But like what I've said about feeling that pain, right? And I see people when things have dropped or the deals have not gone through that they're expecting. I've seen them really, oh God, and it hurt them. And don't negate or be afraid of that pain, right? Because feeling that and moving on from that is how you get stronger, right? If you just think doesn't matter, right? Okay, go next. You don't care about it, and all you're doing is just quashing feelings that we are supposed to feel as humans, right? And that's kind of the mistake I made after my stroke. I was like, nah, we don't need to feel that. We'll be fine. And then all of a sudden something big happens and it's like bang. And this is why you hear about people going off from stress with work, particularly with recruitment, right? Because it's a stressful job.
Yeah.
It's stressful. All sales is stressful, right? But recruitment is particularly stressful. It's dealt with, it's like I say, it's all goal orientated, and at the end of the day, the deals are what matters, because if you're not profitable, they can't keep you, right? So I think it teaches you a lot of soft skills, planning, how to speak to people, how to speak to managers, particularly people that are handling a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they've spent their life building up to that, and being able to balance all of this is quite fine. And I find myself doing too much of stuff I shouldn't. If I need jobs on, I find myself doing all BD and I've not rang any of my candidates. I'm like, God, I've not spoke to, Phil, my super software guy, and he's now just taken a job.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, right? And having a support network is huge as well. And that's professional and non-professional support, 100%, You can, I know people that I can talk to about work and technical issues and, management issues around how do I manage this and how the team stuff. And I've also got people in work and out of work I can talk to about personal stuff.
And more a human element to it, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Ev's just seen me have panic attacks in works and she's automatically dragged me out and looked after me. And if I didn't have that, I'd just be sat there, stressing, and it's tough.
That's a stigma in recruitment, right, as well. Because obviously it's a stigma. It's fact. Recruitment's got it comes with a reputation of high churn, high turnover. It's still prevalent in the industry, although we as a business do pretty well with it. I still think it's very prevalent. And I think from being on the internal recruitment side, I've noticed that a lot of the times when people do drop off from recruitment, it comes from them and not the employer. So you mentioned a good point there about actually it's all about being profitable and making sales. But I also know there's other employers out there who do offer a lot of support network and say no, we're going to back this individual because all the signs are there. It's just a matter of time before it just clicks into place.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, we do have low churn and we've not lost many people that I've seen. In fact, in my cohort that started, I think there's only one out of 12 or 14 or it's decent. But recruitment's not for everyone.
It's not,
right? And if you go into it at an early age, I think you figure that out very quickly whether it's for you or not. You do have to be a people's person, and you've got to understand issues. And for me, I naturally trust my gut, and when I speak to someone, I naturally think I can place this guy, or I think, my managers, I don't think he's going to like him. I don't think he's going to like him, and that's not me being harsh. That's just me being objective and trusting my gut, and I think that probably a lot of that only comes with experience anyway.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people coming out of either school or uni, wondering what they do, I think that they can learn those in recruitment. Yeah.
Well, Will, thank you so much for jumping on and obviously joining. Obviously, talk about something that's massively personal to yourself as well. I know anyone who's obviously going through anything that's similar, any ups and downs and adversity, obviously there are channels for speaking out about that. But like I said, this is Tyler and this is Will from Precision Resource Group on the Beyond the CV podcast. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, guys.
And finally, a big thank you to Access Creative College for all the students and staff who've helped us and looked after us with the production of our podcast today. A big shout out and a big thank you to all of them.